What's happening, Mayhem Fitness? Welcome back to the channel. Quick video today. I am out on my Aventon, my electric bike. It's a little cold. It's in the low 50s. It was really cold this morning. I just charged this battery 100%. And what I've noticed recently riding the bike is in the cold that my battery life is down significantly. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through and ride this loop that I usually do. It's like 15 or 16 miles. We're gonna go down over some hills. We've gone like 2 miles so far, and we already used like 5 or 6% of the battery. So usually at the beginning, like this first part of the hill, I'd be at like 99 at this point in time. So I'm very curious to see at the end on what the battery life looks like on this, because I can tell you right now, it feels like I've definitely lost some battery life on the colder weather, that the bike just isn't performing at the same level. So I'll come back and share that with you. I'll try to shoot a little video on the road. It's actually a beautiful day. I mean, it's a little cool, but we're full foliage season. I'm going through a really nice area with some nice leaves, some nice trees, some really cool stuff that you'll see. So I'll go back through and show you that in just a little bit. So I look forward to sharing that with you, and I'll come back and see you in just a minute or two. Thanks. All right, guys. So we're a little down, like I said, from a battery life standpoint from where we'd usually be. Usually I finish this ride somewhere between like 53 and 54% of battery life left. So I am very curious to see what we'll be left when we get to the end of this ride. This is an interesting ride because there's a lot of hills. It can be a little challenging. I didn't want to do another full foliage ride, but this is a ride I did last year. So if you're curious about this ride and you want to get more info, this is the full fall foliage ride I did last October and September. We rode this like 5 times. I haven't ridden this yet because I've been doing another version of the ride, so I wanted to come check this out. And it's always very pretty, and I haven't been up here this season so far. So I wanted to get up and check it out, but then like I said, I started riding. I could see that my battery life was down. And I saw that last week too, when I did the last week of the fall foliage ride. The battery was struggling. I was losing battery power like at a really fast rate. So, you know, and everything we've read about, obviously the electric vehicles, and they actually don't have the same range in the cold. So I figured I'd do this in the fall, and then I'll come back, and it's gonna suck, but I'll shoot in the winter too. I'll make sure I dress warm, and I'll do the same ride, and I'll just compare to what we have for battery life at the end of that. So I think it's always an interesting you know, story to tell, and I'm happy to share it with you. Hopefully, like I said, you can see some beautiful foliage. We're kind of at the end of peak for foliage for New England, but it is really pretty. You know, I raked some leaves yesterday. You know, some of these trees are just pretty naked, but the ones that still have trees have beautiful color. And it's funny, when I'm looking at it with the naked eye, it's really pretty, but when you go back and look at it on video last week, it was so much more stunning to see it through video than it was with the naked eye. So I'm happy to share this with you. Hopefully you dig it, and I'll come back in a little bit. Once we get over by the farms over in Walpole, I'll share where we are from a battery life standpoint then. Then we'll come back, and then we'll shoot a little more footage, and then we'll let you know where we are at the end. Talk to you in a little bit. I think I'd just shoot a little more. This is my second part of my ride before I get over by Adam's farm and the farms over in Bubbling Brook and Westwood, but this is just so pretty right now. I figured I'd shoot a little bit of it as we're coming out of this other road. So we just got on from our side road to Route 109. So we're riding on 109 right now, and it's just very, very beautiful this time of year. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I've done the foliage ride. I'm not trying to do that. This is really like more of an experiment from a battery life standpoint. But man, I'm gonna be sad here in a month or so when there's no more leaves on the trees, and it's just so gloomy until, you know, really end of April. So it kind of sucks. I struggle with that every year. I'll talk about it this year with some of the seasonal affective disorders and stuff that happen with people and how they affect your workouts and your sleep. But yeah, it does. It's a challenge for me. But man, this is where New England is worth it. It's a little cold, but it's not like unbearably cold where I can't go out and ride, and it's just so pretty. So I'll come back and see you in just a sec when we get to some of these other this other road here. Up here on North Street in Walpole. Right now we're on Westwood. We're heading to Walpole, by the farm. Some trees in the background on the other side of the road. So yeah, we're heading into our other part of the road. Right now we're at like 73% battery life, which isn't terrible. We're a little down from where we usually be. We'd usually probably be closer to 80. So like I said, I'm usually down, you know, 5 to 10% at the end of the ride compared to usual. But I have noticed it quite a bit on the rides lately. As it's gotten colder, we've lost battery life. So I'll come back in a second, share a little bit more scenery with you, and then we'll come back at the end and let you know how the ride finished. All right, guys, I don't know if you can see this here, but I'm under 50% battery life right now, which is lower than I usually am for this ride. I think I'm like 13 miles in. I got about 2 miles till home. So usually I would get, on average, about 28 miles on a full charge. But what you'll find is on the bike, at least for me, as I've had this bike and I've ridden it quite a bit, my battery is typically, it drains a little slower first, then it'll get faster as it gets towards the end. And as I just looked down, I'm now at 44%. So I was at like 49 just a second ago, and I've now dipped down to 44. I don't have any like crazy aggressive hills here. There's a couple, but they're not like, I'm not on a crazy incline. I had a few tough hills, but these are the same hills I ride every ride. And I've talked about this for a while on, why I've used the Peloton like I have the hill climb trainer, because we have a lot of hills in here that are fairly aggressive. It'll be a little more challenging. So I think when I get home, we'll be under 40%. We have a nice downhill at the end of this road here, so it's a little bit easier ride on the battery. But I believe we'll be probably in the mid to high 30s, where typically we'd be about 52 or 53% battery life. So I'll go home and do that calculation for us and let us know what the difference was in the colder weather today versus what we've had regularly. And typically when we've ridden, it's been in anywhere from like 75 to 90, and today we're riding in the low 50s. So I'll come back and share that with you in just a second. All right, guys, we just got done with our ride. So you can see we're at 31%. Battery comes back a little bit afterwards, so we'll even say let's 32%. And I'll show you where we finished just from a ride standpoint. 15 miles an hour, just under 15 miles, 27 miles max. So you can see we were 15 miles, we 31%, 32% of the battery life, which is way off from where we usually are. So all right, so like I said, it's in the low 50s. It's like 52, maybe 53 degrees out. And so it's 25 to, it's 20 to 35 degrees colder than we usually ride. Like I said, the last couple of rides I had done on my foliage ride, I noticed it was significantly less. So I figured I'd share it with you. So I'll come back and do some calculations, and I'll share that with you on the video in just a second of, what percentage of energy we're losing riding in the cool weather. And I'm very curious to see, once it gets down to like 32, what it looks like to ride at that freezing, to see what our range is on the bike. So come back and talk to you in just a minute. Doing some calculations. Looks like we used about 40% more battery in this weather than we would have if we were riding in warmer temperatures, at 75 to 90. So at like 50 degrees, we're using 40% more battery power, which is pretty substantial for a 15-mile ride. So like I said, I am curious to see what happens when we go back and see what happens on a 0-degree ride. But I want to share it with you because I have noticed, like I've said a few times on this video, that I have had a significant reduction in battery life as the weather has gotten colder. And that's been common for electric vehicles all along. As the weather gets colder, the range goes down. So I'm curious to see if we can find a nice day where the roads are pretty clear and I can get out and do the same ride at zero or freezing or below freezing, and see what our battery life is. So I'll come back and share that with you in a little bit. If you haven't done it so far, please hit the like and subscribe button. We'll talk to you real soon. Thanks.